Greetings fellow humans, let's talk about digital downloads. There are some soundtrack collectors for whom digital downloads are the mode of choice and who won't buy a physical release these days unless they absolutely have to, and at that point will rip it off the digital files and put the CD or the record away in a box in the attic and never touch it again. On the other hand, there are people who much prefer physical release. There's the no CD equals no sale brigade. I'm neither of those. I'm a little bit closer to the latter in the sense that I will much prefer a physical release, CD if possible. But you know, I'm not going to cut off my own nose to spite my face if a thing is only available on digital, and I would quite like it. So, but that said, when I get a digital download, I'm the sort of person who almost invariably will then find a CDR and burn the thing off to a physical medium and print out a sleeve for it. They tend to come with a front cover image that's square, so you can use that. Sometimes they come with a back cover image, most of the time they don't. And so when they don't, you either make one up yourself, which I do quite often, or you go on the internet and you find custom ones that other people have made, and sometimes I do that. And so that means that even for digital downloads, I will have things to hold up and show in front of the camera, like I normally would for unboxings and stuff. So that said, let's get on and see what I have bought digitally. Of course, sometimes things are too long for a physical release in terms of, you know, this is like hours upon hours of stuff, and the number of people who are going to buy it is minimal, and therefore it's economically unviable. Sometimes things are too short for a physical release for similar reasons. So sometimes with things, you kind of gather up a bunch of digitals and then lump them together on a single CD. So John Williams's classical pieces, some of them have been gathered on CD and many of them haven't. I bought the Horn Concerto, which is a Detroit Symphony Orchestra recording under Leonard Slatkin, and the Oboe Concerto, which is Boston Pops with Williams himself, and On Willows and Birches, which is the Harp Concerto, which is also Boston Symphony Orchestra, and I bunged them together onto a CD and did myself a rear cover. So I created a front cover with kind of trees imagery, because on the proper CDs, John Williams tends to seem to like tree imagery on his concertos. So I did that. There's also a release by Michel Zukowski, clarinetist, which includes a clarinet quintet by Mozart and a thing called Contrasts by Bartók, as well as John Williams's clarinet concerto. So that's that. I appear not to have done a front cover for that. I'm sure I will at some point. And then we get to the problem with digital downloads, which is that once you've saved the file, there is no differentiation, no way of telling the difference between a legit download and a pirated one. CDs, you can generally tell a bootleg because the quality is not the same, but a digital file is a digital file is a digital file. I bought Bachelor Flat as a digital download from Amazon, I think, but I was deeply dubious about its legitimacy, so I don't know whether that's kosher or not. I suspect it might not be. And then the other problem, of course, is that when you're printing your own stuff out, what's your quality of printing like? Sometimes I've got access to a decent full colour printer, sometimes I've got access to what should be a decent full colour printer, but my cartridges are running out, and therefore I have to print out in black and white and so on. So this is a computer game soundtrack. I think was one of Eric Woods' recommendations. Is "Remember Me" by Olivier de Rivière, and that is in black and white because my colour cartridges were dead at that point. It's very good, sort of glitchy sounds and things. This is one that falls into the far too much music for far too small an audience. So that's Orville New Horizons. Series 1 and 2 of Orville got proper CD releases, but this is 4 discs worth of content, so I've kind of done a track list in 4 different colours there and done myself a booklet and 4 CDRs. Yeah, so it's good stuff, but I think they know that for the number of people who are going to buy it, 4 discs worth of music is probably not going to be economical. And then we get on to actual film soundtracks. Autism in Love by Mac Quayle. I think these are going to be in alphabetical order from this point onwards. To be honest with you, I bought that almost entirely because I wanted something by somebody whose name began with a Q, because I'd got every other letter of the alphabet. It's good stuff though, it's quite nice. Behind Enemy Lines 2, Axis of Evil by Pinar Toprak. You can see my printer was on black and white mode at that point. That's good fun. It's got almost nothing to do with Behind Enemy Lines 1 apparently. I haven't seen either of them, so I don't know. This one I bunged 2 onto a single disc. There's Behold a Pale Horse by Maurice Jarre and Universo di Notte by Roberto Nicolosi. I put them both together because A, they fitted, and B, I bought them both from Trunk Records. Benedetta by Anne Dudley has a very good score. It should have had a physical release but didn't. Blizzard by Mark Mackenzie. This is another one where I'm deeply dubious about legitimacy. I think I bought that from Cobuzz, who are supposed to be legit, but I'm dubious about it because that artwork on the front there is the artwork from the Intrada CD, but cropped so as to exclude the Intrada logo, which feels like a dodgy thing to do to me, so that might not be legit, who knows. This was another one from Trunk Records, and you can see my printer was mucking about at that point. His face is not supposed to have a big... I mean, it's quite fitting that he's got a big bloody mark down his face, but that was just a printing error. That's Blood and Satan's Claw by Mark Wilkinson. Another issue with digital downloads is that sometimes a film will come out and you go, oh, I want the soundtrack for that. And you go and you look and it appears to be on digital only, and you think, are they going to do a CD release of that or a vinyl release of that? You wait for a bit and you think, no, it looks like they're not going to. Oh well, I'll buy it digitally, and you buy it digitally, and then 6 months or 9 months or some other ridiculous duration later, then out comes a CD, and you go, I could have waited and caught that. Call of the Wild. That came out on CD after ages. I thought it was not going to, so I did myself a CD out of that. Intrada did it in the end on CD. Pinar Toprak is really not well served by CDs these days. There's some of her earlier ones have come out on CD, but a lot of the more recent stuff just seems like digital only. Nah. So yeah, Captain Marvel didn't get a physical release, so that was a back cover done by me, so fine. Likewise, The Challenger, that's one of hers as well, so I did my own back cover for that. Chambord by Anne-Sophie Fresnine, that's a kind of a documentary about a French chateau that's got like a wildlife park, I think, and it's about the kind of upkeep and maintenance of the place. It's a good score. See, it's the female composers who are a bit hard done by. Klaus Family by Anne-Catherine Dern. Now there is a physical release of that, but it's 100 copies, 100 folks, and B, it's released by Keep Moving Records, who, if you don't know, are based in Moscow. So for those two reasons, you're not going to find many copies of that. But it's a nice proper Christmas music album. This one, you can see my printer was running low on ink, and I've got a bit of banding on there. I don't think there was a CD of that. Maybe there was, but I bought it digitally. That's come true, which is by Electric Youth. This was I think it was an IFMCA award winner. I did eventually see that the film was shown on the telly a few months ago. It's a very unusual film, but it's very good, and the scores are very good indeed. Coppelia by Maurizio Malagnini, and my printer was behaving nicely at that point, so that's a really nice, high quality, shiny, and I've done myself a custom reverse for that. Cruella by Nicholas Britell. The songs album got a proper CD release, but the score album only got a digital one. That's my custom reverse for that. Curse of Turandot by Simon Franklin. That only got a digital, I think. DC League of Super Pets was very well regarded, and that, I think, only got a digital. This is probably the only one that none of you will have got, and most of you will not have heard of, and that's because it's for a small independent short film made by my mate Jeff Harmer. It's called Dead Air. It's kind of produced as almost as a promo for trying to get it made into a full feature, but it's been touted around the festival circuit and short film competitions and things, and won lots of awards. Yeah, so I was one of the crowdfund backers for that, and therefore getting a copy of the digital soundtrack was one of the perks. So I burned that off to a CDR. What else have we got? We've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness by Danny Elfman. You're going to go, Danny Elfman? It's a major composer, it's a major film. Why did that not get a CD release? Maybe it will eventually. Okay, here's one that definitely did get a CD release, but it's rare as hen's teeth and therefore massively expensive, and therefore I just kind of went, okay, digital download will do for me, and that's DuckTales. DuckTales by David Newman. Congratulations if you've got a copy of the real CD of that. Isabel Walley-Bridges and David Schweitzer's Emma. That came out as digital or as a double LP, but no CD. So I don't want a double LP, so I bought the digital and then burned it off to a CD myself. Another one's well regarded is For Sama by Nanita Desai. No CD for that. Edith Goldenthal's The Glorious, that did eventually get a CD, but another, it was the one where by that time I'd assumed it wasn't going to and bought it digitally. You know, Goldenthal's good. Frank Ilfman's Gunpowder Milkshake, I don't think that's had any physical release. Nice reverse that I did for that. Halloween Ends, that has had like a vinyl release. This is the one that that Miss 80s had a physical release of, and she did a kind of prize draw for the digital download code. I think that was what it was, and I won that, so she sent me that. So I burnt myself off a CDR of that. Heavy Metal 2000 by Frederick Talcorn. I think there is a CD of that. Maybe? I'm not sure. Laura Rossi's Hurricane. There might be a CD of that. I'm not sure. In Fabric by Cavern of Antimatter. I bought that because Mark Kermode was banging on about how good it was for ages. Inkheart by Javier Navarrete. Trying to find a useful place to put these on screen where Navarrete's good. That's very lush. More Christmassy stuff. Jingle Jangle by John Debney. That didn't get a CD. Nor did James Newton Howard's Jungle Cruise. This was not one of my doings. This was one that I found on the internet. In terms of artwork, there are people out there who do custom artwork. The score for Kick-Ass. I think there was a songs album that had a physical release, but the score album only had a digital one. There are lots of different composers involved in this. There's Henry Jackman, Marius de Vries, John Murphy, Ilan Eskry, Danny Elfman, and The Prodigy. The Last Airbender definitely did have a CD, but again, that's like DuckTales, hard to find and quite expensive. That's James Newton Howard. Last Full Measure by Philip Klein. That's another Eric Woods recommendation, I'm fairly sure. I don't think that had a physical release. This, yeah. Lesbian Vampire Killers by Debbie Wiseman, and that's got a silver screen CD that is again not easy to find, so I bought a digital of that. Max and Me by Mark Mackenzie. That's an absolute masterpiece. It's Mackenzie's Schindler's List, really, and where Schindler's List has got the violin solos by Isaac Perlman, Max and Me has got Joshua Bell, so another top-notch violinist. Mum's List by Amelia Warner. The Nun's Story by Franz Waxman. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be vinyl LPs of that out there, I'm sure. Likewise, The Old Man and the Sea by Dmitry Tiomkin. There's vinyl of that. The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists by Theodore Shapiro. I don't think there's any kind of physical release of that. That's my nice reverse for that one that I did. Pride and Passion, George Antheil. Don't think there's any artwork for that. So this is just, I think the digital download that I bought came with just that picture of Antheil himself. Fair enough. What do we got? Clint Mansell's Rebecca. That originally came out as a digital download and vinyl, and then eventually did get a CD. So it's another one like Call of the Wild and Glorious, that if you're going to release a CD, tell us right at the front that you're going to. Secretary by Angelo Badalamenti. Yes, I'm pretty sure that exists as a physical CD, but I couldn't get hold of it, so I bought a digital download for it. Skyfire, that's another top rack. That's a Chinese disaster movie, hence the title, which is essentially in Chinese. And another one of hers is Slumberland. Is that like Netflix? Yeah, that's a Netflix movie. Now, Solo John Powell, got a proper CD release. But then he did the expanded release, which was like 2 discs worth of stuff, and that only had a digital. So let me find the original of that. So that's the artwork for the original solo, and that's my artwork for the expanded one, based on Japanese poster, I think. Yeah. Back. The Sun is also a Star by Herdis Stefansdottir. Funny story about that one, which is that I attempted to buy Anne Dudley's The Hustle, which was being sold as a CDR from Amazon. I bought it, I received it. It was printed to say it was The Hustle by Anne Dudley. It was in a printed sleeve that said it was Hustle by Anne Dudley, and I started playing it, and I thought, this does not sound like what I would expect a movie about, kind of comedy heists, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels update kind of thing. Doesn't sound like Anne Dudley. So I ran it through one of those recognise this music things, and it turned out it was that. So I copied it off to another CDR, and then I returned it because it wasn't what it was sold as. Does that make me a pirate for having done that? I don't know. Maybe it does. Copies of Panualtu's Tale of a Lake are a little bit hard to come by now. This is definitely an Eric Woods recommendation. Now, I did buy Khaled Musanar's Caramel digitally, but then I eventually managed to find a CD of it. But I also, on the same download, got Warren Ellis's This Train I Ride, which is actually pretty short, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22. So yeah, it's about 28, 29 minutes. Yeah, I think Invader might now have done a CD of that. Possibly, but at the time when I bought it, there wasn't one. More Top Rack, Tides of Fate. That was a sort of sequel to, what was the first one? The Wind Gods, wasn't it? Which was the first of her kind of ones about the America's Cup. Yeah, that's really nice. Ema Noon, 2x2 Overboard, also known as Oops 2. That's nice. This thing, Gerald Fried. It's like 2020. I think Gerald Fried is another one of these people like John Williams who's been going since. He's probably been going longer than John Williams. This is like the 1950s. This is a very, very silly movie. But hey, Joel Fried, 2020. Bruno Coulet, Wolf Walkers. I mean, those animations that he does scores for. What is it called? The animation something. That studio that does all of those, like Song of the Sea and things like that. They're always very good. I'm not sure that it was a physical release of that. That was my reverse cover for that. And finally, World's End by Stephen Price. That's another one that's got a little bit of sort of deliberate glitchy noises to it, a bit like de Riviere's game soundtrack earlier on. And then there's some short ones that I've burned off onto mini CDs. I don't know if you're aware of the existence of mini CDs. These are the little ones. So things where the whole thing is less than about 23 minutes. You can, it's not worth wasting a whole CD on that. But there are things that are quite good that are short. So I've got that I've burnt off onto those Marshall Solal's Abu de Souffle, Catherine Bostick's Clemency, Abel Kuzniowski's Escape from Tomorrow, and Ryan Talbot's music for the Score film music documentary. So that, folks, is my digital downloads collection, for what it's worth. Back to regular stuff next time, I think. So it's getting towards the end of, what is it? It's the 28th of May now, so I'll be compiling my May unboxings fairly soon. Got one or two interesting things. Wait and see. Until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.